And just like our beautiful song about celebrating life, because we celebrate light and growth and new beginnings. And the very word spring suggests, talks about that spark within us, and that phrase of springing to life, or that little spring in our step. In many ways, it feels more like a new year than New Year's. It's a time to emerge from that hibernation, to come into being, and to re-energize with the world. And once again, we get to go outside more and be with nature. My thoughts have been turning to spring more and more over the last several months. And probably because my eyes have been itchy with allergies, but also because the trees up and down my block are in bloom. And there's this beautiful crepe myrtle right outside my bedroom window. And in the depth of winter, it appears that it's dead. It looks dry, it looks brittle. I remember the first time I planted it, and the winter came, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to have to get a new one, or I'm going to have to pull that one out and put something else there. And then all of a sudden, one day, I look out my window, and I see these little green buds. I'm curious, so I go outside, and I saw all the new growth. And of course, within a few weeks, all of a sudden, the crepe myrtle is like in bloom, and all this greenery, and then all these beautiful flowers. So whenever I feel defeated or hopeless, I remember that tree, and I remember that beautiful tree from deep within, to remind myself that sometimes, out of the blue, a little burst of energy comes forth with new life. There's this beautiful poem by Emily Dickinson, Hope is the thing with feathers. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity is asked a crumb of me. Hope is the thing with feathers, simply acknowledges for all of us the enduring human capability of hope. Hope is the thing with feathers, stands out as a reminder to each and every single one of us, no matter the circumstances. Hope is the spark which lights that fire of inspiration within each and every single one of us. Hope is that positive and potent spiritual practice with the power to pull us through all those difficult times. Because life is altering for all of us. And going over the last several years with the pandemic and all the changes that are happening with life and for ourselves on the world, I keep wondering, what does rest look like after the pandemic? And that word hope keeps on popping up for me, because it's just, I might not have all the answers, there might not be all that clear, the vision or the path, but that hope of, I'm going to keep on taking steps, I'm going to keep on moving forward, and it propels us. Because at this time of uncertainty, it's important that we don't lose hope and confidence. In my life, in my experience, hope is a big part of how we cope with those things that we cannot change. Because life is an ongoing process of creation, and it is filled with opportunities. And each of us is responsible for how we get to cooperate with life. Because there are days that I don't want to get out of bed, and there are days when I have full of energy and I'm raring to go. But hope is that basic ingredient of optimism, and it's a tendency to dwell on all the possibilities and the best possibilities forward, looking forward. Because hope is that choice. Because hope is something that each and one of us can do. It's an action. Because hope is not just the verb, it's not just a noun, it's also a verb too. Because we get to be action-oriented. And hope is just like that. Because there's endless possibilities to bring that light, to bring that hope into our lives. Because life is an open-ended horizon, and nothing is impossible. Hope, to me, anchors ourselves. It helps us to hold on to something, to let us take a step, and to allow us to be inspired. If it's by the crepe myrtle, or if it's with something within you, that you see something or heard something. Hope is what we have, and life is ours to do with it as well. Because life is a bubble with infinite number of points of direction of choice. We get to see and look at our point of view and see it in the direction that we're wanting to look at it. An infinite number of ways for us to participate. Because there's always another way to do something. My way might be the best way for me, but your way might be the best way for you. And all of it is wonderful. So it's about trusting yourself to make that right choice. Because there's always new and different ways waiting to be discovered. Just look at yourself and just ask yourself, what can I do differently today? Because the incredible part is that we get to choose that. Because hope and joy, I keep learning, is not dependent upon other people. It's dependent on yourself and how you perceive it. It's our individual relationship with life. It's our individual relationship with ourselves and how we see the world. Hope is in all the little things that we do each day, each moment in our lives. It's our emotional energy, the basis for engaging with life. Because hope, to me, fuels that human spirit. It drives us forward. It encourages us to overcome those obstacles and keeps us focused on achieving worthwhile goals. And it also encourages us, our imagination and risk-taking that can also lead to change. It is often discovered in unexpected places. It could be a smile from a stranger, a hug from one of your students, a rainbow, a call from a dear friend. And what's beautiful is sometimes there are days when you just wake up and you're thinking you got the whole thing figured out, that you have everything lined up and everything is going well, and you're like, okay, this is, life is good, and all of a sudden you walk into your classroom and your 6-year-olds come along and show you how it's really done. And one of these days, it was for our science activity, we went for a nature walk. And, so I took a nice deep breath, and as we headed out, and I sat there and said silently, okay, everything's going to be good, it's going to be a beautiful day, and I'm thankful. And it was interesting listening to their commentary on our walk. And I'll just share a few of the things that they said. So as we're walking, they taught me something about paying attention. They taught me something about being present. So we're walking like, oh wow, look, what a wonderful tree. Look at those rocks. Did you hear that wind chime? Did you see those 2 trucks? Did you hear that dog barking? Look at that beautiful flower. They were so amazed by the things that I just didn't even notice. And to tell you the truth, sometimes I would even complain about. Now, it wasn't like I was completely unaware. And I was thankful for another spring day before the summer heat's going to start, and it's harder to enjoy being outdoors. But but it was wonderful enjoying the time with my students outside. When I think about it, there was at least 1,000 different concerns that I had in my mind and competing for my attention within me. But they, my children, my students, they were all just amazed by and content by just watching the ants on the sidewalk or seeing the squirrel go up the wall, or a flower or a butterfly just whizzing by. And sometimes I wish I could just be just like them in those moments. What it got me thinking about is about being amazed with life. And I repeated that, that sentence to myself, like you do when you're trying to remember a telephone number. Be amazed. And I scrawled that on a piece of paper as soon as I walk into the classroom. Be amazed. I reminded myself on my phone calendar. I made a Post-it note. I wrote it down everywhere. Be amazed. Because I didn't want to forget that feeling that I had, being with my students outdoor. Because I think like most of us, I don't believe I'm only alone in this. But my mind can be my most hardest critic of my own happiness. I can snatch up that joy right out of my hands, because I can confuse busy with something important, or urgent with something significant, and difficulty with meaning, because I get all frazzled and frenzied up with the emotions instead of just taking that breath and enjoying the moment at hand. Be amazed. Because I keep learning, one way or another, time does march on, and old becomes new, and new becomes old, and you get another chance to be amazed again. Because each new stage is another chance to be nice to yourself about the whole thing. It isn't humanly possible to love every second of life while it's happening, because even my 6-year-olds aren't amazed all the time. But this little walk reminded me that even the simple things are amazing with life. Because isn't life about the journey and not just the arrival? And sometimes it does take that conscious effort to enjoy just the journey. Because we don't know where life will lead us, but we do hear that wonderful inner voice speaking in our heart. And it may tell you to do something different, or it may just tell you to keep that course. Because hope exists. There's always hope. Because every day is a new day. Every moment can be a fresh start if we just allow that resilience and creativity that is innate in each of us, and allow it to spread, even when things sometimes do look a little bit bleak or dismal, and you feel sometimes completely defeated. But just like that crepe myrtle reminds me, there's always hope, and never lose that hope. We get to hold on to it. You work on the things that you can work on. Yes, you may never get where you want to be, but you'll never get there if you just quit and give up. And I always tell that to my students too. No, we're not giving up. We're just going to try it a different way. Whether your goal is to lose weight, get stronger, be healthier, be kinder, live in the present, whatever it may be, you will encounter roadblocks and setbacks and frustration. It's life, and that's part of life. And our lives have challenges and difficulties. But for me, hope opens doors and has the power to sustain us through the most difficult of times and circumstances. And the other beautiful thing about hope is that it doesn't require that we know the answers to how, when, and where, but it does require our participation. Whatever steps that we're taking, that's our participation. Because often hope serves us as a catalyst to uncover those unforgotten strengths that are within us, to begin to also see those possibilities and those opportunities with life, and to create that energy to sustain us for that change. Hope allows for possibilities. Hope motivates us. Hope also heals us. What is wonderful about hope is that it's not Pollyannish. Hope has a roll-up-your-sleeve, get-to-work type of quality and mindset. It gets our hands dirty in the business of creating our lives. It values all the details and skills and challenges that go into creating our own world and what we're wanting for ourselves. Hope requires a willingness for us to experiment, to see what works, and it's also important to learn what doesn't work. So hope doesn't see failure, only those wonderful steps that we're taking on our learning path. It doesn't fall for false optimism or empty promises, because its motto is progress. Progress, not perfection. Hope is the orientation of the heart, and it's a wonderful renewable energy source that comes from within, because it never runs out. We can tap into it whenever it is needed. As Martin Luther said about this positive force in our lives, everything that is done in the world is done by hope. Each of us approaches a new problem, a task, a challenge, or opportunity with a particular outlook. Our own perceptions. And this outlook could range from very positive, hopeful spirit to a very hopeless stance. But it is our point of view. It is the way we're going to look at life. Hope, therefore, is that object upon us that we can direct our focus and energy towards. I thought about the people who have inspired me the most, and the people who seem to overcome every hard circumstances in their lives. And knowing that other people have faced hard circumstances and still find the joy is inspiring for me, and a blessing to meet them and to be a part of their life. It's realizing that you can turn around from the desert you've been staring at, and all of a sudden you can see a view of the mountainside of purple wildflowers. Hope gives us strength. Hope moves us into action when needed. Hope is our strong guardian traveling with us each and every day. Hope tells us and says to us, do not be afraid. I am here, and I am with you. I close with this poem from Soen Roshan, because when I read this poem, I love this poem, it always brings me a smile to my face, because it's this wonderful reminder that all of us can blossom and fulfill our potential as human beings. And here's the beautiful poem. All beings are flowers blossoming in a blossoming universe. I thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention.